This morning, I'll be speaking about one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Premananda. We observed his birthday a few days ago. Some people may be wondering why on Christmas Eve day I'm speaking on this topic. Partly, of course, it was his birthday recently. Partly, last weekend, you heard about Life of Jesus, and there's a beautiful tie-in with the life of Swami Premananda and Christmas Eve, which we'll hear about. And also, he was the perfect embodiment of the teaching of Jesus, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, because he was considered the purest of all the direct disciples. There's another reason I like to talk about Swami Premananda. 27 years ago was my first visit to the DC area with Swami Swahananda ji, and we met at the homes of different devotees at that time, and one night was the birthday of Swami Premananda. So I always remember that. It was at Shuklaji's house. And so this is the 27th anniversary of my first visit to the area and meeting all of the devotees. So I think that's enough reasons. When we look at the direct disciples, sometimes there's a tendency to try to grade them. Generally, we'll put Swamiji on top. There'll be some who like to put Swami Brahmananda on top. Then we have our Ishvara Kotis and everything. It's foolish, they were all great. It's foolish to really try to do it. But if we use that one scale, this who was the purest of all, purity of heart, innocence and everything, then we have to say that Swami Premananda, this is Baburam Maharaj. We read in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna that Sri Ramakrishna says to him, "Do stay with me." This was at the Dakshineshwar Temple Garden when Sri Ramakrishna didn't have any particular attendant at that time. "Do stay with me. It will be very nice in this mood, that man going into samadhi at any time. I cannot allow others to touch me." That means even Rakal, who was there off and on, and Swamiji and others, that it was only this Baburam, in that particular state of mind that Sri Ramakrishna was in, that could touch him in that state of samadhi. His body was so pure, he was so sensitive to a touch of slightest trace of worldliness, that he needed this Baburam Maharaj. So he was talking about Swami Premananda. His pre-monastic name was Baburam Ghosh. And he was given that name Premananda because he was the embodiment of love. And Sri Ramakrishna would often trace his disciples back to a particular aspect of God or a manifestation of God. He connected this Baburam with Radha, who in the Indian tradition is the embodiment of that divine ecstatic love for God, the love of Krishna that she had. So he was known as Swami Premananda, the bliss of divine love, and it was because of this tremendous love that he had that the early days of the order, everything kept glued together, that he was the mother of the mutt. He was the one who really kept everything together. Of course, during their wandering period and everything, but when it became Belur Math. So for many, many years, and it was the role that Swamiji wanted for him, that he would be the manager. And it was his love, not so much for the disciples and the monastics. He loved them, of course, but the devotees. So that was the speciality of his special feature of his life. He was born on December 10th, 1861. We observe the Tithi according to the lunar calendar. 1861, that means that he was a couple years older than Swamiji and Raja Maharaj and Swami Turya, many of them. Most of them were born in 1863 or later. So he was known as Baburam Da, elder brother Baburam among the order. And he was born in a beautiful village, small village called Atpur. This is very famous within our order today. It's in between Kolkata and Jardinbati Kamarpukur. Many people, when they go to visit, they'll stop there. And it was his village home, and Thakur went there, Holy Mother stayed there on different occasions. The direct disciples went there. His parents, mother especially, was greatly devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, so it's considered a pilgrimage place, a very holy place in our order. His parents were extremely pious, especially his mother. His mother was a real tapaswini. She loved to practice different types of austerities. And if for any reason, there were 3 sons. If for any reason they came back from school or something, and it was a day that she was doing her fasting and her meditation and japa and everything, they couldn't get in. She would lock them out. They would have to wait till she was finished, and then they knew it and they understood it and everything. So she was a very, very devout person. So this Atpur, we'll see, has become a great place of pilgrimage, especially because of what took place on Christmas Eve. So that's really the main tie-in that we have with our Christmas Eve celebration tonight. We'll hear a little bit about it then also. And that was the night, of course, when Swamiji, then Narendra and Rakal and many of the others, they went to Anandpur and they took the first semi-formal vows of monastic life and service at that time. So he grew up in this village. They had some connection with Kolkata. Like many village boys, he was sent there for his studies, but also a marriage was arranged for their daughter with the Balaram Bose. So he was a great householder disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. So this will be that connection with Sri Ramakrishna, and it was through that connection that her family came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna. So there are many different family connections among the devotees that we find. Not just family connections, but in those days, some of these neighborhoods, Bagh Bazaar and other things, they all knew each other. Some through the Brahmo Samaj, some through their professions and everything, but I always had this impression that big sprawling place like Calcutta, that nobody knows anybody, or they had their inner circles and everything. And a lot of these inner circles connected and coincided because of Sri Ramakrishna and these different connections. So we'll find with Rakal also, that through his brother-in-law he came to Sri Ramakrishna, and different types of connections like that. We don't hear too much about Babu Ram's early life. When he was a young boy, 4 or 5, for some reason it got into his head that he'll never get married. We find this with some of the others also. I think Niranjan Maharaj, that some of the others from an early age, they said, no, I won't marry. I don't know why exactly. At such a young age, this question even would arise. But he used to imagine that he would spend his life living in a little hut in the woods someplace on the bank of the Ganga and spend his days in meditation and reflection on God. And very similar to the Dakshineswar temple garden. And when he goes there for the first time, he'll be reminded of all of that. So he finished his early education in Atpur, then was sent to North Calcutta to continue his studies. He went to the school of this metropolitan school, and M was the headmaster. We read the other day that they were all students of M. I don't think they were all his students exactly, but he was the headmaster. Rakal also went to the same school. So again, we find these different connections and overlaps. So this Rakal, as we say, Swami Premananda, was his classmate and friend, and again, through different overlaps and coincidences, Narendra and Rakal also became friends, partly through the Brahmo Samaj, partly through they went to the same gymnasium and did sports and things together. So all different types of connections. The first meeting of the direct disciples with Sri Ramakrishna is something usually very, very significant and very important. Or I should say actually the second meeting, because very often the first one is just kind of a chance thing, not too much very interesting takes place. When Narendra first met Sri Ramakrishna, it was just singing at the devotee's house, and Thakur said, please come to Dakshineshwar one day, and something like that. But in the case of Baburam, that he saw Sri Ramakrishna when there was some recitation of Bhagavata Purana. Thakur also used to go to these things, so they saw each other there, but nothing special happened. We think that always the first visit something happens, but very often we'll see that second visit. Anyhow, his older brother, Tulsiram, there was a Shantiram, Tulsiram, Baburam, the three brothers, had already met Sri Ramakrishna, and this Baburam was a little bit like Swamiji at this time. Have you seen God? He was looking for somebody who had that realization, somebody who could be his guide, spiritual guide in life. So Baburam knew that Rakal, or Swami Premananda, had already started visiting Sri Ramakrishna, so it was through him. He said, let's go together one day. So this happened April 8th, 1882. Now, April 8th, 1882 is, I think, the second entry into the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, roughly, of M. So this corresponds with M's very first visit. And it's also about several months since Narendra. Narendra had just started coming a little bit earlier than that. So they went together. They happened to meet a devotee named Ram Dayal. This Ram Dayal, I don't know too much about him, but he became devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. He went on several different occasions, and they went to Sri Ramakrishna's room, and they were told he had already gone to the Kali temple. Now, when he would go to the Kali temple, he would come back usually a little bit reeling like a drunkard. And Rakal already was close enough to Sri Ramakrishna that he would go and attend on him and hold him and make sure he didn't fall and everything. So this is how Baburam first saw him. That Rakal was holding Sri Ramakrishna very carefully, guiding him, that here are the steps, lift your foot here, it's like that. Just like a small child or somebody who's intoxicated. So this is the first vision that he has of him, looking like a drunken man, but really overwhelmed with ecstasy. So then he went in, he sat on his small cot, as he used to do, and gradually the mind would come down. This was the very standard thing with Sri Ramakrishna, that from that state of ecstasy, he wouldn't come down the ordinary plane, he would come down a little bit and then speak in words of just ecstatic words of wisdom. Even when the mind came completely down, we know. But from that state, it was really with that mystic vision, that how he would speak that way. Now, the other thing is that did Sri Ramakrishna recognize instantly those who came to him as his chosen ones? Most of the time. There's a Baburam, nothing very special. He'll ask him a few questions and everything. As I say, with Swamiji also the very first time, not really, but when he comes to Dakshineshwar. So with his Baburam, it was just kind of a visit the first time. Now Sri Ramakrishna, we know he could look into somebody's heart and know their inner workings, mind and everything. He used to say, like looking into a glass case. But he wasn't always in that mood. Sometimes he would say, I entered into that mood where I could see everything that way. So that means that it wasn't always. So with this Baburam, so he's there. Thakur was very fond, happy to see him. And Rakal, he loved very much already. And he invited them to stay overnight. This was another common thing. The Dakshineshwar was a little out of the way. If it was nighttime, it was difficult to go all the way back. that very often just some mats would be spread either in his room or outside of his room on the veranda, and people would spend the night there. So this is what happened. And Sri Ramakrishna was in this mood where he had this tremendous longing to see Narendra, or future Swami Vivekananda. He would get into these moods. It happened later with the Purna and with some of the others, where he would say, as if my heart were being wrung, like a wet towel, gamcha. That pain that I felt, this tremendous longing to see Narendra. So he was in that mood that night, and he saw, this Babu Ram saw, that every once in a while, Sri Ramakrishna would get up. He never slept much at all. If he slept an hour or so at night, that was standard for him. And generally, he would wake everybody up and say, don't waste your time, sit for meditation. But at this time, he got up quite often, and he went to this Ramdayal. Probably Ramdayal knew Narendra, and he had come before, so he felt comfortable with him. And he said, look, I haven't seen Narendra for a long time, and I feel as if my heart were being wrung like a wet towel. Please ask him to come and see me. He is a person of pure sattvic qualities. He is Narayana himself. I cannot have peace of mind if I don't see him now and then. So this went on through the night. Thakur would lie down a little bit, and again he would come and wake him up. And then Babu Ram thought that what a tremendous capacity of love this man has, and how mean and hard-hearted this Narendra must be for not coming more often to see him. He knows how much he's longing to see him. The next morning, which was probably just a couple hours after this, Sri Ramakrishna was a normal person again, and no talk about Narendra. He sent his Babu Ram to the Panchavati, where Sri Ramakrishna did all of his spiritual practices, and instantly that vision that Babu Ram had as a boy of that beautiful wooded area near the Ganga, that flashed into his mind, and he felt that this is what he had seen when he was 4 or 5 years old, whatever it was at that time. So they left that morning, and Sri Ramakrishna asked Babu Ram to come again. This was, again, a very standard thing. We hear him saying that to him when there were those that he felt some connection with that way. The next time he went, Narendra himself was there. And this will be a very beautiful connection between the two. Babu Ram was immediately attracted to him. Now, not everybody was. This is another thing. We read when Sharat, Swami Sharananda, first saw this Narendra, whistling a tune, not looking at anybody or caring about anything, and they thought, what an arrogant person he is. And then after a while, a little conversation, they said, oh, what a special person he is. And so not everybody took to Narendra at the beginning. But he had such qualities of leadership and this power of attraction and everything that everyone was just drawn to him. So very deep friendship started to grow between Narendra, Babu Ram, and also all of the future direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And this relationship between Babu Ram and Sri Ramakrishna itself started to become stronger and stronger. Swami Premananda, Babu Ram, said later, the master used to cry whenever I left Dakshineshwar to return to Calcutta. Oh, how can I explain to you how much he loved us? One day he was found waiting outside of Balaram Babu's house where I was staying. Many of the direct disciples and others would stay with this Balaram Babu's. Plus, there's the family connection. His sister was there also. One day, he was found waiting outside of Balaram Babu's house where I was staying. Balaram Babu was not at home, and the master was hesitant to go inside, thinking he might not be welcomed. He had come to see me. Someone finally called him in. His love knew no bounds, and one drop of it completely filled us. Each one thought himself to be the most beloved of the Master. Now, in the case of the Babu Ram, gradually Sri Ramakrishna started to understand who he was and to recognize and appreciate him, and called him one of these 6 Ishwarakotis. This is a term that Sri Ramakrishna used specifically for those who he felt were his companions in all of his manifestations as an avatar. They were the ones who would come with him lifetime after lifetime. Whenever he came, he considered him one of these. And above and beyond that, he used this term Nitya Siddha. So even the direct disciples that weren't part of this group of 6, all considered to be eternally perfect. That means not born out of past karma, not born out of any bad samskara, anything like that, but just to participate in this lila for the welfare of others. So eternally perfect, and as an embodiment of a portion of Radha, the greatest ideal of love in this tradition. But the one thing that we notice is that Thakur especially pointed him out as someone being perfectly pure, untouched by lust or greed. He used to say he's pure to the very marrow of his bones. And this is why Sri Ramakrishna wanted him to stay with him. I mentioned before, there's one story. I don't remember any of the details of it, but one householder devotee had come to see Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivananda, and they were talking about family affairs, some husband-wife stuff. And Baburam, Swami Premananda, was there listening. And afterwards he said, "What were you talking about? I couldn't understand any of it." And then Mahapurush Maharaj said, see, this is how Sri Ramakrishna understood. The mind was so pure he couldn't even imagine any of these things. So that was his Baburam. There's a very touching story about when Sri Ramakrishna wanted Baburam to stay with him. Now to stay with him, that means pretty much giving up his school, giving up his future good job, and of course we know giving up marriage and everything. So parents, of course, would be frightened to hear about all of this. But we know that his mother was greatly devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, so the story was a little bit different here. Sri Ramakrishna, for some reason, trying to attract Baburam, at the same time getting permission from his mother. So he said to her that, "Will you give me something?" And she says, yes, sir, whatever you like, I'll give you. He said, "Will you give me your son? I want a pure-hearted boy to live here. I'm greatly pleased, even when he gives me a glass of water." So this Matangani Devi, that was the name of his mother, at once she agreed. She says, "My good fortune that you will accept him, he will live with you, but does a mother give away a son for nothing?" So there's a little game that they played between them. So Sri Ramakrishna smiled and said, "What shall I give you?" She said, "I have 2 requests. One, that I may have unflinching devotion to God." See, she was such a good person. "The other is that none of my children will die before I do." This is, to me, something very touching, because we know cases where parents had to live through the death of a child, a horrible thing. Yeah. So a very touching kind of thing. It shows how much she loved her children also. There was another incident later, towards the end of Swami Premananda's life, where he became very, very ill, and everyone assumed that he wouldn't survive. It was such a serious illness. And he said, "No, don't worry. It's not possible that I'll die. My mother is still alive." He knew that. He knew that promise, that boon that Sri Ramakrishna gave, and he recovered from that. So, Baburam continued his studies until 1885, and with very little enthusiasm. We read in the Gospel, a little back and forth, "Oh, are you doing your studies?" And Sri Ramakrishna would encourage him to be very careful and cautious about his studies in the least convincing way possible. So we know that he really didn't care at all. Yeah. And when he got poor marks and when he said he didn't really care about studying again, Sri Ramakrishna said, "Fine, That it wasn't a little game that they played a little bit. He thought that he'll get scolded. He actually failed his entrance exam. But Sri Ramakrishna knew that it would have no bearing whatsoever on his future life. So he started living with Sri Ramakrishna. So we have Latu Maharaj stayed with him. This Swami Brahmananda Rakal Maharaj, he stayed with him. And there's Baburam. If you heard, Premananda stayed with him. Swami Advaitananda. So at different times, it wasn't until Kashipur that all of the direct disciples at different times actually lived in the same house with him, the Kashipur Garden House. So he took a permanent residence at Dakshineshwar. He looked after all of the personal needs of Sri Ramakrishna, even sweeping the floor and cleaning the place and preparing tobacco for his smoke, rolling a pan. He also had some special connection with the Holy Mother. Even though he was a little bit older than the others, he had a little more access to her than some of the others did. But his main job was just to be always nearby in case Ramakrishna went into that state of samadhi where there was every chance that he could fall and injure himself, because it happened on other occasions. He broke his arm once, he chipped his tooth once. So that was his main job, that he would be there to support Sri Ramakrishna. This was the main job of Hridoy many, many years earlier, that we see many times Hridoy holding him up in these pictures and things like that. Then, of course, Thakur had his throat cancer and was moved to Shambhazar and then to Kachipur. And Baburam stayed with him by his side, as many of the others did, and helped to nurse him. And it was during this period that our elder Gopal Swami Advaitananda, later, that he came to Sri Ramakrishna. He had a packet of Garawa cloth and some Rudraksha beads, and he wanted Sri Ramakrishna to bless them so he could give them to some wandering sadhus. And Sri Ramakrishna said, "Where will you find better sadhus than these boys?" And nobody knew at that time. They were students mostly. So Sri Ramakrishna himself gave this Garawa cloth and Rudraksha beads to some of the direct disciples, and Baburam, of course, was one of them at the time. After the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, no one knew what to do exactly. There was no place that Narendra was really given charge of the boys. Sri Ramakrishna said, "You keep them together." He didn't want them to go back home, but they had no place to go until the Paranagamat. So the Baburam also went home for some time, and before they really got established in this Paranagamat, then this Christmas Eve incident took place. Very, very important incident in the history of our order, that Baburam's mother, Patangani Devi, that she invited some of the friends of Baburam, who were the direct disciples, invited some of them to come to Anpur and spend some time there, have a little break. So Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, Shashi, or Swami Ramakrishnananda, Sharadananda, Tarak, or Swami Turiyananda, Kali, Swami Abhedananda, Niranjan, Swami Niranjanananda, Gangadhar, Swami Akhandananda, and Sharada, Swami Sharada. So these were the ones, and of course Baburam was there. So these are the ones that were the first to actually take some type of formal monastic vow, getting names even. And Swamiji was the one who gave the names. So he himself wanted the Ramakrishnananda name. But our Shashi Maharaj served Sri Ramakrishna day and night with such a devotion that he felt he's the one who deserved it. Anyhow, so Baburam at that time became Swami Premananda. So what happened was, that particular night, they decided to have a dhuni fire. This is a type of fire that is done by sadhus or others. They'll sit around the fire and meditate. And they did this just outside. Now there's a little memorial right there, nearby their home, and they sat for meditation. And Swamiji, then still Narendra, started talking about the renunciation of Christ and the disciples, how they had no place to lay their head, got very, very absorbed in the topic, very much inspired, and they all decided to lead that type of life that the disciples of Christ led. So they took some personal vow. There's a tradition in India that you can take vows with fire as the witness, in front of the fire, sacred fire. If it's not the guru giving the vows or something, so they did it that way. And only later did they find out that it was December 24th, Christmas Eve. So this Christmas Eve is celebrated as a very important milestone or turning point in the history of our order. In Belur Math, in our centers, there'll be a nice celebration tonight also. After the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, the disciples, Holy Mother especially also, we know that this tremendous longing for God realization was there, but sometimes I think we forget the tremendous sense of loss and feeling of grief that they had for the passing of Sri Ramakrishna, how strong that was within all of them. The very touching statement is made by Swami. Sorry. I have my tablet here. So it gave me a little message that Amala Pranaji had passed away this morning. We knew she had a very severe heart condition and some surgery and everything, and they didn't expect her to last. So this message just came from probably Prabhupada Pranaji. Yeah, she was General Secretary of the Sharada Math for many years. So anyhow, very auspicious day for you go. Anyhow, Swami Premananda was talking about those days and how this tremendous sense of loss, how they all felt that for Sri Ramakrishna. He said, after the Master's passing away, Swami Vivekananda, used to cry for him so much secretly at night. This is Bharanagurmat. Secretly at night that his pillow would get wet, and I would put it in the sun in the morning to dry. How do I turn this sound off? Okay, sorry. So one by one we know they took off the life of the wandering monk, the Swami Premananda. Now he could use that name. He traveled to many places, Puri, Varanasi. Then Balaram Bose passed away in 1990. And that was his brother-in-law, sister's husband. So he came back to console his brother. And after some years, he heard that Swamiji was coming back from the West. So this will be 1897. That Swamiji came back from his first visit. So he wanted to see Swamiji. They all, of course, missed him very much. This is a second thing. First of all, the loss of Sri Ramakrishna. Then, just when everything is being put together and they have some sense of unity, Swamiji goes off to the United States, to Chicago. He was going for 4 years. So it was mostly through the letters that he wrote back. And Swami Brahmananda and others, how they managed to hold everything together that way. Now this relationship between Babu Ram, Swami Premananda, and Swami Vivekananda was something very, very interesting. They had their own different ways of looking at things. Here, Swamiji put Babu Ram Maharaj in charge of keeping everything together with great order, and Swamiji himself would break all of the rules. He would have classes and talk to them, and it's time for Arati and everything, and they were all sitting there. And so they clashed every once in a while, and there are a lot of very many touching scenes where Swamiji would get a little angry with him, and then go back and with tears in his eyes say, "Oh, how the Master loved you, please forgive me, I'm not worthy of living here." This little play went back and forth. There's one particular incident when the class was going on. So Swami Premananda, he went and said to the young monks, "What are you doing? Aren't you coming to Arati? Finish the class quickly." And Swamiji said harshly, "Is it your idea that what I am doing here is not worship?" Can you imagine Swamiji saying this? When you ring the bell in the shrine, is only that worship? See, he was also in charge of puja. He did everything that Swami Ramakrishna did before he had to go off to Chennai. Anyhow, it went on in that vein. And Swami Premananda was really, he was very sensitive. He felt very much hurt, and he went away, and no one could find him. And then Swamiji got so upset with himself that he began to strike his head on the threshold of the door till blood came. See this play? Swamiji was so emotional sometimes, and then finally found him and begged his forgiveness. So of course, and then they would embrace. They had this very beautiful love between them. So later he found him. He went up to the roof where nobody could see him and was sitting there in meditation. We find similar things with Swamiji and Swami Ramananda. There was another nice incident that Swamiji came down from his room, and he was sitting on the cot under the mango tree. That mango tree is still there. We always associate that with Swamiji sitting there. He used to like to sit there, and he started talking about renunciation and seeing God in all things. It's a very beautiful incident to remember for meditation. Swami Premananda had just come from his bath in the Ganga, and he was holding the items for worship. He's about to climb the steps. This is the old shrine, not the main temple. It hadn't been built yet, and there were several others that were also there. Then Swamiji, pointing to the sadhus and the brahmacharis nearby, he said, "Where will you go to seek Brahman? He is immanent in all beings. Here is the visible Brahman. Shame on those who disregard the visible Brahman and set their minds on other things. Here is Brahman before you, as visible as a fruit in one's hand. Can't you see? Here is that Brahman." And everybody, they went into some ecstatic mood. And just like statues, like still is a marble statue, unmoving. And Swami Premananda is there also, hardly moving, holding these articles. And they say it went on for about a quarter of an hour without anybody moving. And then Swamiji said to Swami Premananda, "Now go for worship." So then the mood broke and everything went. Only then did everyone's mind come back down. The Swamiji had that ability. Once he was speaking in the West, and for some reason he abruptly stopped. And they said, "Why did you stop?" He said, "I felt such power within me that I could raise the minds of the holy audience, whatever I was feeling and thinking and saying, that they'd be filled with that, and I thought it not proper for me to do that, so I stopped speaking." He had that tremendous power. Now we know when Swamiji came back from the West that he had all of these ideas that were very strange and foreign to many of his direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. They should start lecturing, they should organize, they should do social service work. So Swami Yogananda, Swami Premananda, a few of them were a little slow to pick up on these things, and they would remind Narendra that the master never told us to do these things. He used to warn us, in fact. With the Brahmos and others, don't get too much involved in these things, that you can lecture only when you get the command from God, that it won't do much good. All of these things they would remind him. And Swamiji, he said, "You think you're the only ones who understood Sri Ramakrishna? You think he never told me how he wants things to be done?" So they had a little bit of a clash at that time. And with regard to karma yoga, with regard to social service work, lecturing, all these different things. So this is Swami Premananda was not so quick to really fall in line. We find others also. M was one of the last. He really. But what happened with Swami Premananda? I mentioned that serious illness that he had. During that period, he took it upon himself to read all of the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. I don't think that he knew English very well. I think he read whatever Bengali things were there. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. But he said that his mind underwent a complete revolution. And that sometimes after that he would even talk about himself as Swamiji's disciple. And wherever he went, he would talk about this beautiful ideal. The highest worship of God is service to living beings. So this is something he just became filled with this idea, and wherever he went, he spoke about that. I've mentioned a few different times one nice incident that took place in Malda. I like this incident because I was taken to the place where Swami Premananda stayed at that time. That house is still there. And he was talking about this ideal, this karma yoga ideal, and somebody said to him, "But Swamiji, we want to hear about divine love. We want to hear about prema." And he said, "Oh, really? Anybody here who's qualified to hear about that?" We always think that the path of love is an easy path, and everybody is qualified for it. And then he said, "Let me tell you a story about this feriwala, this man who's walking down the street selling goods. It's a very common thing in India, and everyone runs out of the street. What are you selling? What are you selling?" He says, "I'm selling prema, divine love." They say, "Oh, good." They all line up. "We want it." Everybody wants this prema. And then somebody said, "What's the price?" And he said, "The price is your head." And he said, everybody left and went back home. No one was willing to pay the price. So he says, that's why I talk about this other ideal, who is there ready for that. Before Swamiji passed away, he made two requests to Swami Premananda. One, never make disciples. Now, a very interesting request. As a sannyasin, he's free to make any disciple he wants, even to make monastic disciples. But he said that you make disciples, your disciples will have so much devotion to you that they'll quarrel among the disciples of Swami Brahmananda. So that was his first request. So he never did. He never had disciples. And the second one was that he should look after the management of Belur Math. So he became the manager, which he did to the very end. And there's so many stories about how he served the devotees with so much love and so much devotion. There was one incident where the devotees had left their shoes outside of the temple area, and it started to rain. And one of the young monks went and with his foot was pushing the shoes into some shelter so that they wouldn't get wet. And the Swami Premananda saw and gave him a big scolding. He said, well, you don't even want to touch their shoes. You should carry their shoes on your head with such devotion for the devotees. So this is something very special with him. Another story about Bharat Maharaj. How one day, big public celebration, some people came very, very late. And it was his practice, no matter when anybody came, they would get prasad, even if he himself had to go and cook. So he said that Bharat Maharaj was his assistant manager. He said, find some food for these devotees. And he said, so Bharat Maharaj looked all everywhere, and he said, there's nothing here. And he said, did you yourself eat? He said, yeah, I took some, he said, before knowing that there maybe someone else would come. So the Bharat Maharaj, from that day on, he never took his food on these celebration days till the very end. Anyhow, this was another incident. One devotee came and just went on the bench and fell asleep. Now, generally, sadhu may even wake him up. What do you do? This is Baba Maharaj. He started fanning him and put a mosquito curtain around him and everything, so he would be perfectly comfortable. So anyhow, that was his nature. I'm going to go a little bit late, just because it's a nice topic. That his schedule. Every day, he would go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, and he'd be up around 3:30, wash, go to the shrine, and did worship. He did the formal worship, which was mostly meditation. The type of formal worship that comes later was not necessary for the direct disciples. Theirs was a fully devotional type of thing. So a lot of it would just be deep meditation. What was Holy Mother's worship of Sri Ramakrishna? Huh? See where they come, sit, take your food, have your bath. Huh? Esho, bosho, huh? Neyake, now cow. Something. They're very, very simple. And then with love and devotion, offer the food and meditate and all of that. So he would do that. He would serve Sri Ramakrishna just as he did when Sri Ramakrishna was alive. This is it's not like us. We have to imagine what it would be like to serve him. He served him day and night, so he knew all of that. Then he would meditate with the monks for 2 hours. If Swami Brahmananda happened to be there, everyone would go to his room. And then they would just sit with him and he would say a few words and everything. Then otherwise, 8 o'clock, everyone had their duties to do. He himself would go. He himself would cut vegetables and do everything. He'd sit with all of the young monks and talk about Sri Ramakrishna. And cutting vegetables meant very carefully and with great devotion and great attention. That was another good way to get a scolding if you weren't careful preparing food for Sri Ramakrishna. Then he would have his bath, again some type of formal worship, and this would go on throughout the day. Then he would take a little rest. There would be classes for the monks, so some type of scriptural classes and things. And then he would meet. There was a visitor's room at that time. They would meet there. The devotees would come. There would be singing and everything. So this was throughout the day. Then the evening bell for food would be rung. He would go to the shrine, offer the food again, close the shrine for the day, and afterwards take a little food and then see if there were any devotees who needed anything. So that was his daily schedule. Swami Swahananda was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, the first president of our order who wasn't a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, a very highly revered monk of our order. And he said to Swami Premananda once that we should have some rules and things for people staying here. And just some regulations, what visitors should do and not do and everything. And then Swami Premananda said to him, "Look, Swahananda, as long as we are alive, let it continue this way. When we die, you can open a hotel for the devotees. It is Sri Ramakrishna who brings the devotees, and they bring everything for him. Likewise, it is Sri Ramakrishna who was eating and who was feeding the devotees. What can we say about it?" One of the special missions in the life of Swami Premananda was the work in East Bengal, what is now Bangladesh. And Swamiji had once said, I'm leaving that for you. I'm reserving that for you. He had many trips there, one very special trip with Swami Brahmananda, but he was so beloved, so tremendously popular there that he almost single-handedly awakened this East Bengal, now our Bangladesh. So this was after Swamiji went in 1901. When he took his mother on pilgrimage, he went there. And after that he said, "I've left East Bengal for you." So between the years of 1913 and 1917, the Swami Premananda went every year. And equally beloved by Hindus and Muslims. We know that the East Bengal has a large Muslim population there. And when they wanted to start a center in Dhaka, they started to raise money, and they went to the Hindus naturally to ask for money. So some of the Muslims came, and they said, "Sir, we're very hurt. You please ask us for money also." So they also contributed money for the first ashram there in Dhaka. Swami Ashokananda writes, his visits were all epic events. Wherever he went, thousands of people, old and young, Hindus and Muslims, were attracted to him. And when he would leave a place, even after a visit of only a few days, people would run after him crying. He probably would be going off in a horse carriage, and they would run to keep up with him. For miles, people would follow him like that, shedding tears as if someone very near to them were dying. These are the real miracles of the Spirit. He would just pull their hearts out. He brought them up, as it were, with his love, Hindus and Muslims alike. So I mentioned about that last illness. Then after that, after his last visit to East Bengal, 1917, then he returned to Belur Math, and he stayed in Uddbodhan for some time, and then in Balaram Bose's house. That was, of course, the in-laws' house. And he got news that his mother had passed away. So that meant that and now was the time for him to be able to go. And that was the one obstacle before. Otherwise, he could have given up the body at any time. So all of his brother disciples came to see him. Swami Brahmananda and Swami Turiyananda were also staying there at that time. And Swami Sharananda came to see him from Uddbodhan. And he said to him, this Swami Premananda said to Swami Sharananda, "You know, I have a great desire to put on a cloth of pure yellow and to eat rice white as jasmine." Now the yellow cloth is what is connected with Radha. Radha, of course, she would wear blue and Sri Krishna would yellow. But anyhow, this was a sign of his, again, re-identifying with that source from which he came. We find this happen with Swami Brahmananda towards the very end. You put anklets on my feet, I want to dance with Krishna, we know all of that. Same thing happened with this Baburam and Radha. So then they all knew that it was very close to the end. The next day, Gyan Maharaj was Swamiji's disciple. He was the only instance at that time of a monastic disciple being asked not to take final vows of sannyasa. Swamiji, he had this idea within our order, there should be one Naishtiki brahmachari, one who takes vows of brahmacharya for life. He was considered equal, if not greater, than the sannyasins. It was not a kind of a secondary thing. He was a great soul. He brought many young people to join the order. Anyhow, he is the one who took over as manager after Swami Premananda. So, the Swami Premananda on his deathbed, he said to him, "Gyan, can you do one thing for me?" And he said, "Anything, sir." He said, "Will you be able to serve the devotees?" He said, "Yes, sir, I promise I shall do it." Then again he said, "Remember that there be no negligence towards the devotees." And that was his final wish. And then he passed away with the words, "Grace, grace, grace." When the Holy Mother found out, now imagine how Holy Mother felt. This is another very sad thing, how she had to witness so many of the direct disciples who were her children. She felt children to watch them pass away. And she said to the devotees, "Baburam was dearest to my heart. All the energy, devotion, and wisdom of Belur Math were embodied in my Baburam and walked there on the bank of the Ganges." And Swami Brahmananda said, "Belur Math has lost its mother." So this is the life of Swami Premananda. And as I say, I feel very appropriate for the Christmas Eve day, that the embodiment of purity, and that wonderful incident that took place in Anandpur. We'll hear about that again tonight. So we invite everybody here and those who are watching at home to come to our Christmas Eve program if you can. It'll start at 7:30 tonight. There'll be singing of carols. We'll have some readings about the birth of Christ and also about the importance of Christmas and everything within our tradition. And then we'll serve food for everyone. And next Sunday, we won't have our Sunday lecture because Sunday night is New Year's Eve. we'll have our New Year's Eve program, that anyone who would like to stay, come for our Arati and stay, you're welcome to stay. But at 11 o'clock we meet in the shrine. We read from the appendix of the Great Master about Kalpataru Day. And then at midnight we wave the Arati lights. And then we have a cup of hot chocolate and welcome in the New Year that way. So everyone is most welcome to join us for all of that. And if we don't see you before then, we wish everybody a very happy, healthy, prosperous, spiritually elevating New Year.
Next day is Kalpataru?
Next day is Kalpataru. And Holy Mother's birthday, this happens every once in a while, that she has no birthday in the year 2023. Yeah, it happens every once in a while. Next year she'll have 2 birthdays. So her birthday falls on January 3rd, so close that we combine them. Many of our centers are doing that. So we'll observe Holy Mother's birthday along with the Kalpataru Day. That puja will begin at 11 o'clock in the morning on January 1st. So again, everybody's most welcome to join us for that. So now we hopefully we'll have some refreshments in the basement. So please join us for that. And again, try to come tonight if you can. Thank you.